Hello, Ali.
Hi, Fernando.
How are you?
I'm good. What about you, man?
Good,
How are
good.
you?
Everything's well,
How's
thank you.
everything?
Good, good. Alhamdulillah. How's Aden?
It's very cool, friend. Things get better since the fuel crisis just came to end. I filled my car up this today, and I feel happy today. Really.
You can move. You're free. The freedom to move.
Yes. I was leashed.
Good, good, good. No, thank you again. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We are now moving on into our first month since we launched Diwan podcast. Really exciting stuff. We've had some great, excellent guests, some great conversations, and a lot has been going on in Yemen this month alone. So we're trying to catch up. We're trying to keep you updated. And we want to thank all our listeners, all our viewers. Don't forget, we are on 5 platforms for our podcast. We are on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, and we are now on Facebook. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Ali, myself, and Diwan Podcast. All of these links, all of these accounts, you can see at the beginning and at the end of each episode. So, Ali, without further ado, let's jump into the news roundup. Right now, we are recording a little bit after President Biden was sworn in. So a lot has been going on. What are your news? What are your spotlights from this week?
From here, Fernando, from Aden, the buzz is going on the assassination of one of the elite forces in Shibwa, a soldier from the elite forces in Shibwa, from Nukhba Shibwaniya. As you followed, a brave soldier was assassinated in a public market just the day before, and this was like something like horrible, and everybody is talking about that. Everybody's, a large-scale outcry here in Aden and all over the southern provinces. Everybody is trying to find someone to blame for, but unfortunately, such people go for nothing. We don't know what's going on there, and because, as you know, this soldier was assassinated in a place just near to a checkpoint of the security forces, and this was like giving too much talk. Why and how this soldier was assassinated by people riding a car, passing through many checkpoints.
What area in specific? What area specifically was he assassinated?
The soldier is Zakaria Al-Aqal Ba'uda. He hails from the Ba'uda prominent tribe in Shibwa. This tribe is widely recognized and known for its brave people. They have been engaging hard in protecting the coastlines in Shibwa and so on. This soldier is from Mayfa district, southern Shibwa, and he have been serving in the elite forces since this troops were established by the Arab coalition in 2016.
Right. And then we also have the SDC rejecting Hadi, the impact.
Yeah, this was also one of, the ultimate news here in Aden. It has been occupying the social media, as you have followed, Fernando. Everybody is talking about. It seems like a new start for a new dispute between, or a new standoff between the SDC and Hadi, because the SDC repeatedly, 2 statements were issued by the SDC spokesperson in the same week, threatening that such decree, such decisions will not be, accepted.
Right, and
the president,
go ahead.
yeah. On the other hand, you have seen Mr. Hadi just carried on with his decisions and went to swear in those people, the speaker of the Shura Council and the Attorney General and the other people who just named in the last week. And this, it seems like the snowball is getting bigger. Back again.
Right. Yeah, and interesting that it's been almost a week and a few days since this whole thing happened. The statements came out a few days ago, and again, like we discussed with Khalid Al-Yamani in our first episode, these kind of incidents are a real test for the SDC leadership, right? Being less than a month since the government arrived in Aden, it's really testing. Yeah. It's really testing the STC in their reactions. So far it's been moderate. It's just statements and talk. We don't yet see big troop movements or any escalation on the ground.
Yeah.
But it seems like what we discussed with Mr. Yamani, that perhaps the STC leadership has moved on into that diplomatic situation where now they're taking a little bit slower. We don't see Aidarus moving too much. We don't see Hani bin Barak making too many harsh movements.
No, I think now they are relying on the diplomatic efforts more than the military one. They are trying. They are showing that they are depending on solving all the problems through diplomatic tools rather than military tools.
Right.
This is,
Right. Definitely. And for me, I just want to highlight some of the things that we're going to be discussing today with our two guests. One of them is the video that we saw this week of Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi, a very casual, interesting video. It wasn't a speech like usual that we see from him, but it was a very casual video of him speaking from a Diwan, from a Mafraj, where he was talking about the issue of corruption and the supervisors, the mushrifin, that people have been complaining about, or more and more people are highlighting as being a big part of the problem within their administration. So that was interesting. We'll talk to one of our guest about this, Nasser Arrabyee, who will join us from Sana'a. And then we will touch on the FTO listing of the Houthis, of Ansar Allah, actually, that came into effect on 19 January. And we'll probably be at around, this episode will probably be at about a month since the listing came into effect. And we'll discuss the impact of this decision by the previous U.S. administration, the Trump administration. We've seen a lot of debate around this listing, on the positive side and on the negative side. As well, we will touch on the Biden administration, the swearing-in of President Biden a few days ago this week, and the expectations, the hopes, that he may bring. I've published a couple of articles about this, discussing, being optimistic about the new administration. Some of the things that we've discussed with other guests, like Khalid Yamani, and on the side, on Twitter or social media, is that we expect the pressure from within the Democratic Party in Congress, among the Democrats, more to the left, on President Biden to extract the U.S. from the war, to pull back, to stop, to slow, to suspend the support to the coalition. And mainly we're talking about Saudi Arabia, with weapon sales, with oversight. And a lot of people in the House of Representatives, more so than in the Senate, but there's still, Senator Bernie Sanders who opposes the war. We haven't seen it yet, but it's expected that the pressure will start mounting on President Biden as, the second week that he's in office, that they will start moving in the House. There's a handful of representatives that really want to move on this quickly. And we'll see how the president, reacts and how Saudi Arabia reacts. We still haven't heard of any Saudi officials wanting to visit DC. We already know Saudi foreign minister congratulated the president, but we haven't gone there yet. We have the calls are growing for President Biden to suspend the FTO listing as well, which is something that we've looked at. And I've said that it's more likely that the president will amend the language, will amend the listing in order to facilitate commerce and facilitate the delivery of, humanitarian assistance. You had a question earlier about how this could affect business and the delivery. It all depends on the wording. I think that the listing of Ansar Allah is very loose, because as we've discussed in our first interview, in our first episode, there is no such thing, no concrete thing called Ansar Allah. There is no institution, there is no hierarchy. So the listing of Abdul Malik and Abu Ali al-Hakim, the head of intelligence, of military intelligence, could be more impactful than the actual listing of a group called Ansar Allah. Because then under Abdul Malik al-Houthi, then anyone that claims that he's their leader would be affected by this, because of the upward hierarchy with the business and everything. And this would definitely affect the executive committee in Sana'a. This would definitely affect Skamsha, the new organization taking care of the humanitarian response. And then with Abu Ali, we have the issue of the militias, where Abu Ali has been traditionally, a leader of the militias, either fighting the government on the ground or, that structure that takes care of the supervisors that are in every institution, every province. He then, would report higher up. So I think this will be interesting, and we'll definitely keep track of this. We'll see how we can further analyze this and the impact that it has on the general population. We are now just waiting a few. I don't know if you have something else to mention, to discuss, Ali, while we wait for Nasser.
Yes, also, Fernando, the last couple of days I have been just reading and following news and receiving some calls from friends and colleagues from Sana'a and from the Houthi held areas in northern Yemen. Everybody is saying that some the Houthi authorities started carrying out random campaigns, security campaigns over target shops, targeted also prevented journalists from doing their work. Also, they have been enforcing segregation at schools, the university, in some faculties there in Sana'a and in the other provinces in northern Yemen. I hope we should spot some light on this with our guests from the northern provinces, that even Nasser, who is gonna join us today or in the next discussions. I want to spotlight on this because a lot of people are feeling worried or feeling frustrated since we have seen security forces attacking a shop, and they said because surfing the LGBT people. I don't know where they came from with this terminology. Or also, I have received some, information from colleagues there, journalists. They couldn't dare to go out and do their job anymore because they usually detain them and ask them and keep investigating them just because they are carrying their cameras. And this is like, I want to know what's the identity of the state that these people are fighting for. Is it a religious sectarian state? How does it come? Since they were, partners in the national dialogue, and they were saying or raising the slogan that they are fighting for a civil state. If you are fighting for a civil state,
Right.
how do you prevent people from doing their work? Why you are afraid of journalists? You know,
Right.
we have discussed some people, among them filmmakers, and they seem like frustrated and they very disappointed because they are not feeling safe to work anymore.
Right.
Also now sex segregation. Why you are trying to enforce students at schools or in the university to be, it's similar to Daesh and Al Qaeda.
Right.
This hasn't been done here. Fernando.
Right.
I see. Munir is joined us.
Right. We're gonna all of this stuff that you brought in. We're gonna bring up with Nasser Arrabyee in a little bit. He seems to be having some internet problems. So what we're going to do is we're definitely going to jump into our interview with Ustad Munir Saeed because he's ready. He's ready to go. Look at him, all comfortable and everything. He's ready to go. How are you, Ustad?
Oh, I'm fine.
That's right. Good one.
Thank you.
Good one. We'll have a chat about those slogans.
I think the young man needed some borrowing, that day.
That's right.
It worked.
Ustad Munir, allow me to introduce my good friend Ali Mahmoud in Aden.
Ahlan wasahlan, Ali.
Ahyak Allah, Munir. I'm so glad to join you today.
Thank you very much. Me too.
We're definitely glad that you accepted our invitation. Take a little bit of your time to come on here and share some of your thoughts. I'm pretty sure many of our audiences in Yemen know of you, but just to introduce a little bit about you, you've been a consultant, you're a businessman, you've been a consultant from Sana'a, very well connected politically in Sana'a, all over Yemen. And we met quite a few years ago during actually the Arab Spring, if you recall, in 2011. Well, I was jumping around from Kachu to Kachu in Sana'a in 2011. Our good friend Dr. Mohammed Kubati was gracious enough to introduce us one day, and I've taken advantage of our acquaintance since to learn more and more about Yemen. And you were definitely one of the first persons I thought of to invite here, and I definitely thank you for accepting our invitation.
Welcome. It's a pleasure.
This episode will definitely come out right after the 10-year anniversary of the Arab Spring. So this is definitely something that we would like to start with you, discussing your thoughts, your memories, and how you saw things back in 2011.
Well, I mean, it did start with a high tone and a lot of optimism, and then as things progressed, things turned around, and what we were hoping for, what we were expecting, did not happen immediately. Although I should say here, I don't think we should lose hope, and I haven't lost hope on it. but it didn't happen. And there were the forces that were standing against it were too strong for the youth revolution. And of course, the youngsters had a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, but lacked a lot of pragmatism. And that did not help the cause.
This is one of the things that I like to ask you, Ustad, because we had discussed this in our episode about the Arab Spring. You know, this hope or this pragmatism. What we discussed were the impact of the youth-led revolution, the Arab Spring, the uprising. You know, however, I would like to hear your definition of it. But it was the power structure. Yeah, the power structure that the protesters had to deal with, and then how that year, those incidents, those events shifted or realigned the power structure in Sana'a, in Yemen, period.
Well, unfortunately, the youngsters were not part of the power structure when they should, in fact, have been. And this has been one of my criticism of the youth movement. If you remember the agreement that was signed in Riyadh, the youngest people that were in that room signing the agreement were Mohammed Basindu, Ali Abdullah Saleh, and King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. We didn't see anybody younger than that. The youngsters were in Change Square agitating, when in fact they should have been sitting in that place, negotiating, participating, putting their voice and making sure that whatever they were demanding in the street is heard in the corridors of power and is included in the final agreement. The result of that agreement was that you had a government that was essentially created by the same old guard, which brought Yemen to the past that was there. We didn't see any youngsters represented in that government. And in fact, we had one of my, I had a very strong discussion with an ambassador of one of the European Union ambassadors, when I said that the so-called Gulf, the GCC initiative, despite some positive elements, was in fact a lot of poison in that plate. And it's going to blow up in our faces in future, because you cannot have Ali Abdullah Saleh holding 50% of a government whose ultimate objective is to remove him. And we saw the result of that. The youth were absent completely from the whole process. They were there very much in the street, but in the process, in the government that was the result of the Yemeni Spring, let us call it, they were absent. They did not participate in that government. They did not participate in its creation. And that was the government that was actually making decisions, not the NDC.
Right.
The NDC did not make decisions of how the process would be managed. It was Abdul Rabbu Mansour Hadi, it was Mohammed Basindu, it was Ali Abdullah Saleh, it was Ali Mohsen Al-Ahmar. It was these forces that represented the old guard who the youth revolted against. They were making the decisions.
Right. Ali, anything you want?
Munir, you are very welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm so pleased to be with you today with my dearest friend, Fernando. I have some questions for you. I mean, as you are one of those, you have like a great deal of experience in the political, side in Yemen, and the youth revolution. What's the major reason behind, the failure of the Arab Spring in Yemen? And how do you look for the future of the youth revolution? Do you think it's still able to play like a main role in the future of Yemen?
I don't think the Arab Spring, whether in Yemen or in other parts of the Arab world, has failed. It has faced a setback, a serious setback, but it has not failed. Until people give up, then we can consider it to have failed. But the Arab Spring has faced a major setback because of the counter-revolutionary forces that are rich and armed very well. I mean, the Arab Spring was turned into a civil war in the Arab world, and like in Yemen. The main reason for its failure is the counter-revolutionary forces who have spent billions against the Arab Spring when in fact they should have spent this money helping the Arab Spring reach a conclusion that they can coexist with. They took the zero option, a complete, it's either them or us. That's the way that the governments have decided. It's either the youth or us, but we cannot coexist. And that is a very dangerous reaction to the Arab Spring, because remember, when you are a young man yourself, I think when you guys created the whole revolution, you went in a peaceful process. You started, I remember, we could not enter Change Square with anything in our pocket other than a pencil.
Yes.
We were searched to make sure that there were no weapons in our bodies. That is the extent to which the youngsters were determined to make the whole process peaceful. On the other side, the forces that stood against it used weapons, and we have seen that. My fear now, to answer your question of where the Arab Spring is today, I think, unfortunately, tragically even, the Arab Spring, when it comes back, and it will come back, it will not be peaceful anymore. It will start...
I'm sorry, Ibn, I interrupted.
It will restart very violent.
Do you expect it to restart back again?
It has not died. I mean, we just had change in Sudan. Everybody was saying the Arab Spring was dead, and then poof, here comes Sudan. We have agitation in North Africa, in places like Algeria, right? The Arab Spring has not died. It has faced a setback. And the leadership, the youth leadership, they're to blame a lot for this, because they were divided into two sides. People who stood aside and others who allowed themselves to be co-opted, to be sucked in by the same old guard that they revolted against.
Right.
They have now become part of that old guard,
right,
without naming names. But you see, a lot of them are today serving the old guard who they were revolting against. And in the Arab Spring, they were the vanguards of the revolution.
Right. We saw that progression, right, from Tahrir, from Change Square to UN jobs,
somewhere else,
to think tanks, to organizations being paid by the coalition or something like this, right?
Absolutely. And this is, I mean, partly I cannot blame these youngsters because people have to pay rent.
Right.
And the Arab Spring has created a lot of joblessness.
Well, it's created a lot of jobs, but in the security sector, right? I mean, this is the one thing that you talk about co-opting, where the unemployment just ballooned between 2011 and 2013. The response in 2014 was simply to open up the military and security forces and try to incorporate these youth into that, so they could have a salary and no longer that grievance of unemployment. And then after the 2015 war, whatever area has been liberated has not created jobs, but merely absorbed a lot of these youth into new military or new security forces.
Yes, and you're probably talking more during the war in Yemen, where a lot of these youngsters were taken in as militias. But I was referring even from the elite among the youth, who were at the forefront of the revolution, the intellectual contribution, the speeches, and the rest of it.
Sure.
A lot of them, unfortunately, have moved away from that agenda and become part of the old agenda. Unfortunately, many of them in a very corrupted way. This has taken its toll on the Arab Spring. It's one of the, the forces that are stacked against the Arab Spring and against the youth revolution in the Arab world are very, very powerful, both politically, economically, and also, unfortunately, militarily. And maybe the setback will take some time, but let's not forget the revolutions that succeeded. The French Revolution took 100 years.
Mm-hmm. Right. And one of the things, you mentioned a little while ago during your talk about the peacefulness of the Arab Spring. I lived down the street from Change Square in 2011, the whole year. So I was walking back and forth, and it was interesting to note, those shifts from February 4th to February 11th to March 21 to the summer. So when it all started, the periphery was basically maintained by youth, whether they was from a party or from the university. But these kids, 20-year-old, 18-year-olds, were the ones checking you as you entered the area. They would frisk you and everything. Then after March 21, when Firqa moved in, with Ali Mohsen moved in to protect the Change Square, then you saw the military periphery, all security forces armed, taking care of this. But it was interesting to note how the youth periphery moved behind Firqa soldiers, right? So the soldiers would check everyone, and then 3-4 feet later, the youth would check you. And this was symbolic for the youth because they wanted to have control of that periphery. And every now and then you saw how Firqa would go behind the youth and the youth would go behind. And once the periphery kind of got too close to the tents, you would then go back to the youth, put in a new periphery farther ahead, to force Firqa to go further. And it was just interesting to see this dynamic in Change Square, the fighting, with the peaceful fighting between the armed forces of security and the youth.
Right.
We also want to discuss with you a little bit more advanced what you think right now. It's almost going to be 30 days. It's a little bit over 30 days since the new coalition government landed in Aden. What do you expect? What are your expectations on this new equation?
I don't think there is a new equation. I think there are new faces, but the equation is the same. The people who are controlling the Yemen scenario is the same. They are from Abu Dhabi and they are from Riyadh. Those have not moved. Those have not changed. And unless those change their positions, or they are themselves changed, then we can expect, hopefully, a new equation. But in Yemen, to expect that there will be a new equation in Yemen is to assume that there are forces in Yemen, current forces which we see now, and we are particularly talking about the south, because that's where the real problem is today. We are assuming that they have control of the south. They don't. None of them has. So what is the new equation? And this is related to the origins of the war itself. I have said very early on that this war was started on a lie. It continues on the same lie, and even the efforts that are made, the so-called efforts to bring peace, are also based on the same lie, and that is why it has failed. It does not recognize the real reasons for this war.
What do you think is the lie, and what do you think is the real reason?
Well, the real reasons for this war, to assume that the reason is what is being publicized as Ansarullah or Abdul Malik al-Houthi has taken the government from Hadi or Shar'iyya and these guys have come to recover that legitimacy, is very naive. The people have not spent hundreds of billions of dollars, have not killed 200,000 people or more, have not fought a war for 6 years so that they return Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi to Samar. To believe that, is like believing in the unicorn. This war, I said this from day one, that this is a dangerous war, and it is going to be destructive for Yemen, and the people who have come, the Saudi coalition, has not come for the purpose for which everybody is saying. They have their own agenda, and we can see it today. We can see it in Socotra, we can see it in Mahra, we can see it in the ports in Bab al-Mandab. That is the agenda. That's why the war is being fought. Now, the lie is that it is Sharia and rebels. But the truth is that. Now, if you want to resolve the war, we have to identify the truth and work on the basis of why this war has actually been fought, and then say, what do we do about it? Do we tell the Yemenis to accept the status quo, that part of Mahra will be under Saudi UAE control because they want to encircle Oman, because that's the agenda on that side, and Bab al-Mandab and Socotra will be in the hands of UAE, and now Socotra also, the Israelis are already there. That will continue. We have to tell ourselves as Yemenis that is the situation we must accept, and then we'll have the end of the war. Or we tell the guys who have come to accomplish these agendas, cancel your agendas and go back, so that we can have peace.
Right. Ali?
Ustad Munir, I see that you are trying to throw, the blame over the coalition. My question is, don't you see that, the forces in the north, which are loyal to the legitimate government, failed to do their job there, despite the big backup from the coalition, despite from all the help that offered by the coalition? Is it just the coalition have its own agenda, or people in the north?
When you're talking about the north, you're talking about the government of Ali ibn Saleh from that time.
So, what about the other factions?
Well, the problem started in the south and the north when the whole union was entered in a very wrong way. That union we should have had a referendum, and people should have actually sat down and done some research on how is the union. What happened is that even that union that we went in, the South went into the union because they saw it as a vehicle to undermine Ali ibn Saleh, and Ali ibn Saleh went into the union. He also saw it as a vehicle to undermine the South. And in fact, you know that Islah Party was created for that purpose. Read Abdullah Al-Ahmar's book. He is very clear of why Islah Party was created. It was created to undermine the agreement that Ali ibn Saleh signed with Ali Salim al-Bif, because Ali ibn Saleh could not undermine an agreement that he himself signed, so they created Islah Party to do that dirty job. The whole intention was not clear. So yes, there was a problem from that time, and I spoke about these issues in December 2012 in a seminar in Sana'a, when I said that we, the Southerners, nobody here in the North, Barakani was there in that seminar. I said, nobody here in the North should ever dare question our feeling of unity. We have been raised from the time we were young. I remember when we were in school, we were talking about the union in Aden. But If people, and I said this clearly in a sentence, and the video is there, I said, if you want to search for those who are actual secessionists, infisaliyin, go look for them in the government that has messed up the union, the government of Ali bin Saleh. That is where the secessionists are. So I agree with you. There was mismanagement of the whole issue, not just the South, but the whole of Yemen.
Yeah,
The corruption was happening
from the beginning.
The corruption, the robbing of the state was happening not because somebody was from the South or the North. The corruption was happening because people were corrupt. Yeah. Thieves steal not because they are from the South or the North. They steal because they are thieves. Okay? And whatever corruption that affected the South affected the North. We have to consider that. And what is happening today is no different from what happened at that time. This is the reality.
Right, Ustad. And we discussed the ongoing corruption within the GOI, within the government, the CBY, with our friend Labib Nasser a couple of weeks ago, where, the problem here is there is no international attention to that. The corruption is just taken as a fact, as a thing that happens in Yemen, so we got to deal with it. When international bodies try to deal with that issue of corruption, then there is the problem of mandate. Who is supposed to be in charge of looking into this? Is it the donors? Is it the coalition? Is it the European Union, the US, or is it the UN? So I was in the UN panel of experts 2017, 2018, and one of the main issues was always this fight over, mandate. Who has the mandate to investigate this? The UN panel has to stick to investigating Houthis. They are, the focus of 2216. That's where you need to stick it. So one of the things that we can take from your talk, Ustad Munir, is definitely that there is an unfinished revolution. As other academics from the Arab world and from the West have focused in coming into the 10th year anniversary of the Arab Spring, that there is an unfinished revolution, whether it's a youth-led revolution, whether it's a revolution against authoritarianism, whether it's a revolution for democracy, that still needs to be defined, in my opinion. And how do you finish it? When we know that this war has armed multiple actors on the ground, has made a lot of people rich. And even if you reach a peace agreement at the top among the elites, you're still going to have these actors that are well armed fighting for their own interests. Where you had the youth from 2011 unable to fight for their interests because they didn't pick up the guns, they didn't go against the government. You do have a lot of actors on the ground today that are well armed, well funded, that will continue a low-level, low-intensity fight to safeguard their interests long-term, right? How do the youth then, once there's a peace agreement, hopefully we want it as soon as possible among the elite, but how do you then end that low-intensity conflict that makes room for the youth to come in and advance their own interests?
I think as long as there is one of the problems we have in the Arab world is that there is a lot of money. If we were poor, this revolution would have succeeded. If the whole Arab world was poor. And there is a part of the Arab world that is loaded with cash. And the fear that any successful Arab revolution in Egypt or in Yemen or in Tunisia, or Tunisia is a somewhat success story, in Libya, and if this revolution ends up to become a political process that are transparent and accountable, this will infect their own societies, and that is the foundation of their position. that is the reason why they went against this, because they are afraid that it will happen in their own societies. Now, how do you ensure that if tomorrow there is a restart of the revolution, the same forces that are still loaded with cash will not do exactly the same again? This will continue until the two sides are either balanced in their power, or whether powerful or weak, but they're balanced in their power. Alternatively, maybe the revolution should not start from the military republics where it started. It should start from the monarchies.
Right. That's a big question. That we can definitely examine all of this in upcoming episodes. We really want to thank you for your time, Ustad Munir. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You definitely bring a different perspective and insight and new things to discuss, for sure.
Thank you.
We really thank you. We really thank you for your time. And
welcome.
We will post some of Ustad Munir's comments from Facebook as well. He's very active on Facebook, and we'll make sure we share some of this stuff so people can stay up to date with your views.
Thank you. Okay, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ustad. Have a good day. Have a good evening. Assalamu.
Bye.
And now we move to our friend Nasser, who's been waiting. Thank you, Nasser.
Can I press end?
Yes, Ustad. Nasser, how are you? Can you hear me? Nasser.
Seems Nasser doesn't hear.
I think the issue is on his side. He was having some internet problems earlier. We need to see what's going on. But it was an interesting conversation with Ustad Munir, trying to send a message to Nasser.
Yes, try to chat with him, see what's going on.
Give me a second. We're trying. Hello, Ustad Nasser.
Marhaba.
Kate Halak, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Good. Now that we've gone through these technical difficulties, thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah, it's okay. Okay.
Thank you. I don't know if you know Nasser. I don't know if you know Mr. Ali Mahmoud in Aden.
Yes, I heard about him. Yes, I heard about him. He's an activist and
very welcome, very welcome, Mr. Nasser. I'm so pleased to join you today with my dearest friend Fernando.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Despite all these difficulties, I know that the internet is not serving well in Sana'a.
Yes, you're right. And if had I known that this is the Zoom, we could have tested it in advance, but I didn't know. Anyway, it's okay now.
Thank you, Ustad. Thank you. Allow me to introduce Mr. Nasser a little bit. I think most of our viewers should know who Nasser Arrabyee is. Great journalist based in Sana'a. We've known each other for quite a while, Nasser.
Yes, of course.
I'm always learning from our friend Nasser.
You're Yemeni. You're almost Yemeni, of course.
Nus.
Nus.
But I've really enjoyed our conversations. I've met so many people through you at our couches, at your house, everywhere else. And you're very active on Twitter, very active on Facebook as well. We appreciate the insight you provide into what's going on in Sana'a, into the different views from Sana'a, and your views on the war itself. very insightful. We really thank you for all that you do on social media.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So to start, Nasser, I'd like to talk to you about a couple of things. With you being in Sana'a, we want to understand. We like you to help us understand how ordinary Yemenis, how the ordinary people in Sana'a see the situation today. What are their experiences? What are their opinions on the current situation?
They are fed up. In fact, the ordinary people are fed up. They are fed up. It's been 6 years now for this dirty war. And, the normal people, the ordinary people, are very, very fed up and sick and tired of it all. I'll be not honest if I say something else. They are very fed up, and they want this war to be over. They want this war to go away.
Ali, if you...
Yeah, very welcome, dear Nasser. I'm so happy to join you today. The question, as you said, everybody is fed up with this war, 6 years long war all over the country. What's the solution from your perspective in Sana'a? How do you see the solution for it? We can say we are fed up, but how we can solve it from your perspective?
It's very difficult. It's hard to say, but of course they.
I mean, the ordinary people. How do you see? I mean, how we can solve it?
The ordinary people, yes, very good. The ordinary people see the solution in giving them their salaries, their food, their water, their medicine, fuel, and their basic life, their life-saving thing. This is what they want. They don't want more. Yeah. They don't want these things. So this is but it's always easier said than done. They don't know how it could be done, how it could be solved, because it's not easy. But this is what they want. The ordinary people want only these things. They want life. They want their life to be normal. They want a life to be to return to normal. This is what they want, but they don't know how, and we can't even help how to do it and how to because it's very complicated now. It's not national. It's not even regional. It's international now. So it's not easy. I can't even now blame one party to this conflict, because there are many parties, and you can't blame one and believe the other. This is why it's difficult and why it's hard to say what the solution is.
That the solution is not in the hands of the Yemenis anymore. You mean this?
Yes, it is not. It is not in their hands, because Yemenis are divided. Yemenis are split. A group is with that outside Yemen, and the other group is with that. With Saudi Arabia, with Iran, with the United States, with Qatar, with Turkey, with all these people. All these big guys are involved, and it's in the hand of those people. I can say that the one who has it more, now is Saudi Arabia. But I've been saying this all along, and it doesn't work.
Right. Thank you, Nasser. And that's one of the issues that has been picking up steam lately. Discussions on how Yemeni society, how Yemenis are split. You still have one country. There's still one Republic of Yemen, but de facto, on the ground, we can say that there are more than two Yemens. We can't even talk of two Yemens. We can't talk about North and South. We can talk about, Tihama. We can talk about Taiz. We can talk about, the Southwest, Lahij, Aden, Abiyan, and then Hadramaut in Mahra on the other side, and then Sana'a, Amran. So the people, they're gravitating toward one center of power or another at the top among the elite, but even on the ground, we see the surfacing of new local leaders that are well armed, well funded, that are completely decentralizing the war itself, right? Whether it's because of economics or political ambition.
Exactly. This is the problem. The problem is this: the division, the loyalties, different loyalties to different countries outside Yemen, and for different reasons, and for different also ideology. So it's complicated. But when we say this, it doesn't mean that there is no solution, because there is solution, and there can be solution if there is good intention from the big guys. I mean by the big guys, US and Saudi Arabia in particular.
Is this the way that you think that perhaps the talks, the peace process should go first to talks with the regional actors, with the international community, and then among Yemeni actors? Or do you think that still the traditional process of an inclusive dialogue among Yemeni actors should be the first step?
No, the first step should be with the big guys. The first step should be with the United States and Saudi Arabia and maybe Iran. Maybe the third step, Iran. The Saudi Arabia and the United States can do it and solve it easily if they want. This is how I see it and how I have been seeing it all along.
Do you think that I've pushed the idea since November, since after the election here in the U.S., I pushed the idea that if President Biden, the new president in the U.S., really wants to move along, wants the peace process to move forward, that he should appoint a special envoy to the conflict in Yemen, because then the U.S. would have, the hands on the big guys, as you call them. It would be able to bring Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and Iran to the table and begin de-escalating that political conflict among them in order to then focus on the Yemeni conflict.
I think this would work. This would work much better than before for one reason. Biden is not biased as Trump was with Mohammed bin Salman. And if he does this, if he does what you're saying now, it would be good, because everybody knows that he's not. He wants to end the war in Yemen, and he knows that it's bad for Yemen, for Saudi Arabia, for the region, for the world. So if he does something like this, I think it would be much better. Yes.
Yeah, one of the things that Ali and I have been discussing is the listing of Ansar Allah by the former U.S. administration, by the Trump administration, listing them as a foreign terrorist organization. How has that been received in Sana'a?
It depends on who you are asking. But people who don't like Houthi say it's okay. People who like Houthi say it's nothing. And it's really nothing. Because what does it mean at the end of the day? It means you stop if there are assets, if there is money, if they're traveling, you stop the Houthi from traveling. They will not travel. They don't have money. They don't have banks. So it means nothing to them, but it could mean a lot to the many people. It could mean a lot, and it means a lot.
And Nasser, one of the main things that we've been discussing since our first episode, our first interview with Ustad Hala Yemeni, is my question to Yemenis is, who is Ansar Allah? How do we define this entity that the U.S. has sanctioned? Who is Ansar Allah?
Well, they say you mean how they define them? How U.S. defines them?
No, how does Yemen? How should we define the Ansar Allah? How how does Sana'a?
They are the leading movement. They are the leaders of those Yemenis. I mean, more than three quarters of the population are under them. So the vast majority of Yemen is under them, whether they like it or not. And they are the leaders of this government they formed here in Sana'a. And so they are not easy thing. They are a big thing here in Yemen, and I think everywhere. The spokesman of the U.S. The State Department yesterday called them as Ansar Allah, not as Houthi or as terrorists or as something, as Ansar Allah. And this is something that was remarkable and notable to me just yesterday. So they know that they are big and they have a functioning government and they can do a lot, and you can talk to them and you can make something with them. Contrary to the Saudi-backed government, who are very divided. You can't talk to them easily because you need to talk to Qatar, to Turkey, to Saudi Arabia, to many other outside countries.
Right. Ali?
Nasser, you're saying that the question that I want to ask you is: everybody in northern Yemen belongs to Ansar Allah or Houthi?
No.
How you can say that? I mean, all the population there are from Ansar Allah. Is according to survey or according to how we can say that?
Sir, I'm not saying from Ansar Allah. I'm saying under Ansar Allah. Under. I'm not saying from.
But I mean, this faction or this entity accepted by the whole population in northern Yemen?
They by the majority, especially the young people, the new generation. Yes, they are accepted, but there are people who are not accepting them, and who are also parties and groups and tribes who are known and who are under them. This is what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So regarding the U.S. sanctions and the designation of the Ansar Allah as a terror organization, how do you see the role of the special envoy of the UN to Yemen in the north? How do you see his role? Do you still see that he's playing a major role in solving the problem and reviving the peace process?
No, what he's doing is keeping things as they are. We can't move forward. We can't bring people together. We can't unite the people. So what he can do is to hold the stick from the middle and to talk diplomatically and to talk about progress that is not made and will never be made if circumstances continue like this. So I think he's just a diplomat who wants to keep working and to keep trying, but I can't see anything being made or any progress being made.
Also, okay, dear Nasser, regarding the situation as a journalist, I am a journalist and I try to report from Sana'a, from the provinces held by Ansar Allah in North Yemen. But unfortunately, it's very hard to reach, to grab the voices of the ordinary people. The question that I wanna pose to you is, how is the situation there in Sana'a and the provinces in under control of Ansar Allah? I mean, as a journalist, not from the perspective that you are supporting Ansar Allah or not.
Yes, you're right.
Just-
You're right.
Yeah. How is the situation? Tell me, how is the situation there?
Humanitarian?
Yeah. Yes.
Humanitarian-
I'm asking about the ordinary people.
Yes,
the residents.
The ordinary people, it's very bad, and nobody can deny. Very bad, very desperate, and people are dying. Of course, being starved. This starved is because of the situation, and sometimes it is made. This is, they are being starved, not only starving by drought or by any natural catastrophe, but by this war. So they are dying of hunger. And then this is something that can't be denied by anyone at all.
You go ahead, Ali.
Yeah, Nasser, don't you see that the authorities controlling Sana'a, especially in Sana'a, I'm talking about Sana'a because it's far-reached. I can't get the voices can't get out from the bottom of the society there. Don't you see the authorities controlling the city now as playing a part of the oppression and of the deprivation that the people suffering there? Because in the last couple of weeks we are following and we are reading where we have received lots of messages, lots of testimonies that complaining of big oppression, a lot of suffering because of the controlling security authorities. Many stories, many reports, reported that the security authorities have been oppressing the people, have been raiding shops, have been closing many shops, have been detaining many, those ordinary people who are trying to make a living.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ali, for this question. It's very good. But this is regulation. They are right or wrong, there is something. Those people, this government, under war. So they are taking regulations. They are taking regulations for security because they know that their enemies, Saudi Arabia and others, want to penetrate them from security way, from humanitarian side, from any side. So they are doing this. I'm not saying now they are right or wrong, but I'm saying they are under war. So it's natural to see something like this. I don't like these things at all. I don't agree with these things at all. But those people who are doing this is under war. You know, if you tweet in United Arab Emirates, you can be put in prison for 15 years. And they are not under war like Yemen.
But dear friend Nasser, you are living like a war condition and people are suffering too much. And when you come to close, those ordinary people shops or the places where they are making a living from, you make the situation more aggravated. You make the situation worse. So why why these authorities are handling with such restrictions, with such steps and such difficult or hardship?
I am under these things. I am not, as you said, I am also suffering of some of these things. I'm one of those people who are talking about, not necessarily security, but the other things like commercial or humanitarian or anything, or moving from city to city. Yes, we are suffering. All of us are suffering. But as I told you, it's because we are under war, because it's it's people are under the blockade for 6 years, and this blockade is weaponized. This blockade is used as a weapon to bring those people, Houthi and their people, Houthi and all other people, to their knees. So they are weaponizing the food, weaponizing the water, weaponizing the fuel. Everything we need, Saudi Arabia is weaponizing it.
Right, Ustad. I mean, we definitely want to see. We saw a video from by Abdul Malik al-Houthi last week, where he addressed the issue of corruption among supervisors, the mushrifin, and things like this. So we definitely like to get your opinion on this video and why Abdul Malik thought that it was appropriate for him to come out at this time. And then after the video came out, then we saw this document from authorities in Sana'a about closing clothing shops if they use mannequins, female mannequins. If we've seen videos of Houthi militia in Sana'a and in other areas in the north going into shops that sell women's clothing, burqas, niqabs, hijabs, baltus, and beat up shop owners. And is this part of what Abdul Malik was addressing in that video, or is this something else that we see in Sana'a?
This is something that is being done by extremists from Houthi people. And there is no movement in the world that has no extremists at all. Houthi movement is like any movement that has people who do not understand what civil liberties are and what freedom is. So this is what they are doing, and they are harming themselves more than doing good for themselves. By this.
Nasser, why you don't rise your forces up so they stop doing such things against the ordinary people? You are journalists, and why you don't rise your forces and protect those people who are oppressed, who are suffering, and
we are doing what we can, and we are telling them, we are speak up to them directly, and we are speaking like I am speaking now, and we are telling them directly when we meet them that this is something that is harming you, doing harm more than doing good. We are telling them directly to them, whether seniors or juniors. We are telling them, and we keep trying and pushing and digging until they understand that this is something that is bad. This is something that Saudi Arabia is the worst in the region, is trying to get rid of.
Nasser, you are very close to a lot of people working for the UN. You've always been close to UN agencies there in Sana'a. When we look at the humanitarian situation moving forward after the FTO listing, what do you see as the main obstacles to the work by UN agencies and NGOs working in northern Yemen? What are the obstacles now? What's expected? What's the talk in Sana'a about this?
Well, the big problem now is that they reduced the rations to 50% to half, and they are going from next month. They are going to reduce it to quarter, which means 25%, and this will make a big problem. This will make a big problem. In addition, of course, to the corruption, there is corruption everywhere. There is diverting. They are diverting the food and the aid, taking it to people who don't need it most, and which is very big problem. This food or this aid must go to people who need it most, and This is not easy to say who is most, but it's easy because there are people dying. You can start with the people who can't find anything to eat in their houses. It's easy to say, let's start with this. Let's start with this. Regardless of who he or she is belong to. If you say he's Houthi or he's loyal to Houthi, so I'm not going to feed him or I'm not going to feed her, so you're wrong. And if you're saying he's under Hadi or he's loyal to Hadi or he's loyal to whatever he is or she is, you're wrong. So this is I think the things that they should, this is the thing that should be removed from the humanitarian.
Right. We also see this increasing PR campaign that's more and more obvious on social media from Houthis coming from Dammar. Since Bukhayti became governor of Dammar, or right up leading up to the time when Bukhayti became governor of Dammar, we saw this PR campaign online showing the work in agriculture in Dammar, in specifically. What is Dammar really producing increasing amounts of foods, or is this just a PR campaign? Just a PR?
It's a PR, because it's a PR, but Bukhayti is doing his best, and he's good. He's admired. He's liked by a lot of people, and he's competent. He has skills. He has capabilities, and he can do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, it's about the resources. It's about the resources, the national resources. There is no enough resources. The resources are very limited everywhere, in Dammar or in Sana'a, in Nib, in Taz, everywhere. And the resources are limited. People are without salaries, let alone the other things.
Big question, Nasser, and I know that my friend Ali would also like to hear your opinion on this, because he was there on 30 December, the attack on Aden airport. The government came out last week. We are recording a little bit after the Biden administration took office. So before, I believe it was 14 January, that the Yemeni government, President Hadi's government, announced the findings of the investigation, saying that everything pointed to Houthis being behind this. What is your opinion? What is your view on this incident? Are you there, Nasser? Can you hear us? I think the internet in Nasser's place went out again, so we got cut off. But we have to call it a day, Ali.
Yeah.
We definitely had interesting conversations and hearing interesting things from both Nasser and Mr. Munir Saeed. And this is a conversation that we're going to have to continue. This is something that we're going to have to keep talking about and bringing more and more guests. We hope that we can bring Nasser back to keep discussing with us the situation in the north. We definitely want to hear more from him about clashes, between Houthis and the government, whether it's in Marib or Hodeidah, for example, or Taiz. Again, they're escalating. Yeah. Once again, Adalah now, we have this direct conflict between Houthis and southern forces, not just the government. And we really would want to hear more about what Nasser sees in Sana'a regarding the peace process. Who are the doves in Sana'a? Who are the ones that are once again reaching out to ending the war, wanting peace, wanting to move forward with the peace process? Is there any prospects? Is there anyone in Sana'a that really wants to push to end this war? Or is it a view from Sana'a that only a military victory somehow is going to lead to an end of the war? Whether it's encircling Marib itself and threatening, the main outpost for the government, threatening the lifeline in Yemen, which is this oil facilities. Is that eventually going to be used as leverage to finally, sit at the table and start talking? And is it going to be too late at that moment, with the suffering now of another Yemeni city? So any closing thoughts from your end, Ali?
Fernando, I enjoyed, the whole discussion with both. Our guests honored us, joining us in this comprehensive discussion, either Munir or Nasser Arrabyee. And as you said, we are looking for, bigger conversation, especially with Nasser Arrabyee, because he is based in Sana'a, and we want to hear more from him about the different, directions, and he is a core source where we can, get a lot from him. I hope we can host him another time.
Absolutely.
Because he is important.
Yeah, and we hope to bring more people. Yeah, we hope to bring more people from Sana'a.
Yeah.
Definitely, we need more insight into what's going on in Sana'a. More, we want to bring some of those great activists working in Hodeidah, for example, working in Hajjah, Yemeni.
Also, Fernando, I'm really interested in picking up some people from Shabwa.
Yep.
Shabwa is a lot of things going on, a big boss taking the limelight there. Yesterday, the governor just left to Saudi Arabia, and people are talking that he's going to be replaced by a new governor. So
yesterday, as in January 22nd.
Yeah.
Friday.
So I will try to find if we can host somebody from there to give us some lines from there and see what's going on behind the scene there.
Excellent. We have tons of stuff to discuss. Like we said in our introductory episode, and then again in the first episode, there is a lot of information on Yemen
also,
coming out.
Fernando, we want someone from the government to tell us what's going on. But people here in Aden are expecting much from them, and nothing has been done so far.
I'm working on that. We're going to work on bringing a government official. Hopefully, this person can get authorized, get some approval to join us and to speak for the government soon. We really want to bring that.
Yeah. Otherwise, I will send you the phone number of the Minister of Information. You can force himself to join us.
Right. I know Mr. Muhammad Al-Iriani. He would be ready to speak with us, definitely.
Okay.
Ali, thank you very much again for joining us, for joining me from Aden, for going out of your way and trying to find a spot to join me in this conversation. It's important that we have that interaction, between Yemenis, and to have Yemenis ask questions and to have Yemenis respond to Yemenis. This is something important that we want to highlight here. This is more about more about Yemenis talking to each other than about me, wanting to talk.
Yes.
And we're still working on hopefully bringing on board another a co-host from the north. We really need somebody from the north that can add to these conversations.
Absolutely true, Fernando. Thank you so much for such opportunity. It's really a big opportunity for us, either in the north or in the south.
Excellent.
Equally, yeah. And I am very enthusiastic to keep up the hard work and just this smart ideas mounting bigger and bigger.
For sure. So thank you very much, everyone. Please don't forget, we have a Facebook page now. Follow up on Twitter, Ali. has been reporting on Shabwa and other incidents on his Twitter account. I myself have been sharing other stuff, mostly regarding the U.S. approach as well. And we will keep you posted. And please leave us a comment. You need some clarification. You have ideas for some interviews. Let us know. And we're working on better stuff. We're going to work on some cultural, on some episodes focusing on Yemeni culture as well, music, arts, filmmaking again, to follow up on the interview with Ammar Basha. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll be in touch. See you next episode. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you.
Thank you.